Hey there and welcome back to XCOM 2. My name is Pete and today we complete a very special 50th episode of our Legend Ironman walkthrough of XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. Last time we left off, after fending off another Haven Assault retaliation mission, we also pulled off a fantastic final turn hoping to unlock the Heroes of the Resistance achievement, saving all but 2 civilians, only to then find out that that particular achievement does not work with Haven Assault missions, so at this point we are actually hoping for another regular retaliation mission. In the meantime, we are also doing some construction work around the base, building a workshop and moving around our training center. And with that already underway, I think we can hop into the world map now, where we are presented with our next rumor, 6 days for alien alloys, which we will most likely need at some point, but for the time being I am actually tempted by something else.
Avenger plotting new course.
As I would like to get ourselves another Guerilla Ops mission, as this will allow us to counter 2 dark events this month, and depending on what we get, that could be extremely useful. Now at this point we also complete another round of psionic training for Esteban Flores, and with Sustain unlocked and the second highest tier of Warlock actually already reached, I think it's time to go after Null Lance now for the final rank. A very powerful psionic ability, although very rarely do you actually get to hit multiple enemies with it. Still, even for burst damage against a single target it can be extremely useful. By the way, even though we are about to reach the highest rank with both of our Psi operatives very soon here, we can actually keep training them afterwards until they have literally every single available ability, which is also why we can now safely go with Fuse for Matt Lewin here. It might not be the most powerful ability and it is certainly a bit situational, but it is fun when it comes into play, and there are actually a good number of enemies that this can be used against. And with that, we jump back in. Up next, we then most likely have the completion of our next covert operation.
Our soldiers took some hits during the most recent covert action, but word from the medical team is they'll all be fine.
Alright, and the high injury risk on this mission here unfortunately coming into play, but that is why we sent Vintage Blade out on this one, and with that we have now gained our 16th and final resistance contact. For the next covert operation then we will be gathering intel, not only because we still need to make contact with 3 more regions, but also because we can get another promotion out of it. And as you can see here, that promotion will go to Grenadier Typhoon, who I think more than qualified himself for this during the Psionic Gate mission, and who will now be accompanied on this entirely risk-free mission by Ranger Hussar Sobieski and by Scientist Ryan Bishop.
We will begin the covert action immediately, Commander.
And with that, let's continue scanning. We are getting closer to the completion of our next Shadow Chamber project, and finishing this one will unlock a bit more storyline progression.
Still can't believe it's come to this.
I truly hope those gruesome images are the worst of what we find today.
They're slaughtering us, Doctor. What could be worse?
We're about to find out. I've patched the Shadow Chamber directly into the ship's computer. It's been sifting through the material we recovered non-stop since our return, cataloging sequences.
Genetic sequences, in near infinite combinations, yet all bearing similar genetic markers. Human markers.
There must be thousands of them.
Tens of thousands, and the procedure is still nowhere near complete.
Which is why we need the ship's computer to find out where they came from, by cross-referencing them with the data we've managed to hack from the Advent network. It's an admission file from one of the gene therapy clinics.
Avatar. Just what exactly is in that vial?
In my worst nightmares, I would never have imagined.
Doctor.
I believe we have found the missing civilians.
That's impossible.
The gene clinics. Millions of people just looking for help.
Medically screened and selected. Suitable candidates taken to that contemptible facility to be processed, refined into the material we now possess.
But why do this?
I could not begin to fathom a guess at this point. There exists no research that would ever warrant this.
It's genocide, Doctor. And these people are walking right into it. We may not know what they're doing with this stuff, but I think I can find out where it's going. Got it. It's a high-security production facility. Standard defensive complement.
Then I strongly suggest we pay them a visit, Commander.
Agreed. The information we gain could prove invaluable towards stopping the aliens' true agenda.
New objective added.
Okay, so you might recall that very fittingly 25 episodes ago, in episode 25, we attacked the Advent Blacksite. Now, unfortunately, it turns out that what we found there was only the beginning, as it appears that yet again the aliens are operating on a much grander scale.
Commander, I've updated our current objectives based on the most recent findings.
So, it turns out the aliens are processing humans into purified genetic substance, and not just some humans, we are talking about millions. Reason enough for us to intervene, but first let's select our next research project.
Commander?
At this time we're actually going back to the regular labs. We will now spend the next 9 days performing the Archon autopsy. Obviously we could wait until we can complete it instantly, but we need 8 corpses for that, and at the moment we only have 3. And with how rarely we encounter Archons, and with how rarely we are able to bring back corpses from missions in the first place, at this point in the game this right here strikes me as the most sensible option.
The product of an extensive fusion of both alien biological materials and advanced mechanical support systems, the Archon is an unusually ornate design by alien standards. With an air of authority spurred by its distinctive appearance, I can only assume the aliens intended it to be something of a herald to the other forces.
By the way, if you're wondering why the Archon autopsy, the research description mentioned that the Archon's melee weapon could be of particular interest for our rangers, and I think that tells us enough about what this will unlock, and with the ranger class still being among our primary damage dealers, I think that's reason enough to prioritize this.
We've made initial contact with the Resistance operatives working in this area, Commander. They're going to show us how to get into the Alien Forge facility.
Alright, the Forge facility now the next mission in the game's main storyline. As you can see, heavily guarded by 17 enemies, and despite the gruesomeness happening there, not our target, at least not for the moment. Yes, I know it would be very fitting to celebrate episode 50 with this, but let's stick to the plan and see what that Guerilla Ops mission has in store for us.
Tactical mission site located.
Right, so before the set of Guerilla Ops regularly scheduled for this month, we now have an extra one, and it is also just the one. However, it is a damn good one, allowing us to counter the High Alert Dark event, probably the most threatening of the 4 dark events currently in preparation. In addition, we also received the very beneficial Stealth Insertion sitrep, and considering that this mission type will definitely have a timer, that could be useful.
Setting course for East Asia.
The mission also takes place in territory formerly occupied by the Hunter, so we are guaranteed to not run into any Chosen. However, with that being the case, with this being a Guerilla Ops mission, with it only having 11 enemies and still being rated as very difficult, I have a feeling we might encounter something else. So we are sending in a fairly decent squad here with 2 colonels, but also with Captains Zucchini and Warhawk, both of which have not seen action in quite some time.
Ranger deployed.
In position to drop.
Dr. Tygan has been tracking the movements of an Advent data vault carrying information critical to the aliens' latest project, and he's finally managed to trace it to one of their facilities in this area. Tygan thinks we can recover the contents, assuming we can eliminate any hostile forces protecting this thing. Move in and secure the area. Leave no aliens standing. Menace 1-5, we've got a bead on the Advent data vault near your position. Be advised, self-detonating charges are in place at the target. Move to disarm and extract the package before its contents are destroyed.
Right, here we are. Fairly urban map, and we need to recover some personnel files at the other end of it. Normally we would also have a timer for this, but thanks to the Stealth Insertion sitrep, that one will only start once we reveal ourselves. So in my opinion, the sensible thing to do here would be to take our time to scout out the area and any enemies in it, and for that we of course start things off with Reaper Sleeper.
You cannot run.
She detects only 2 enemies, a sectoid and a spectre, and also an Advent watchtower that we might want to hack later. Moving up with Specialist Zucchini then reveals what look to be 2 separate groups of enemies, the first consisting of at least a heavy mech and a shield bearer, and the other one involving a muton, and most likely at least 1 other enemy. Enough reason, I think, to remain stealthy for the time being, so let's get the rest of our squad onto the rooftop here as well. With Zucchini we want to stay in skulljacking range, and conveniently enough the shield bearer is still on our list. The muton's company then revealed to be another elite level Spectre. Even though it takes a moment here to actually spot it, the sound and the 25 hit points clearly give it away.
The time for hiding is over.
The 2 groups then also seemingly moving in different directions. We might be able to abuse the positioning of the mech here to trigger an Overwatch ambush on the next turn. In the meantime, the sectoid and the other Spectre move closer to a truck that looks very explodable to me. And in the background we can also spot an Advent Trooper, most likely part of a larger group, that one most likely currently protecting our mission objective. Overall, a situation that might demand some caution. And moving up with Celica here does not make the situation any better, as she reveals a turret on the roof, so let's make sure that everyone is in the best possible position.
I'm at your service. I will always find you. An alien scouting party.
Continuing to scout with Celica then, we reveal the trooper to be accompanied by an officer and a stun lancer. We also have a second turret on the roof as well as a muton further in the back, so let's go on Overwatch and hope that we can strike first.
There is nowhere to hide.
Alright, Spectre and Muton continue to move, but that's not the group I'm interested in. Instead, this is what I had hoped would happen.
Watch the sides!
So, Zucchini gets himself flanked, and as a result, the shield bearer goes down.
Happy now? Tienen nuestra posición. Por los pelos.
Instead of going on Overwatch, however, the mech takes aim at our specialist. Luckily though, it misses, otherwise Zucchini would have been out of action for quite some time. Zucchini then also goes on the offensive with a 20-point critical hit against the Spectre, while Julian follows up his first Overwatch shot with a second one from his Hunter protocol. Eventually then, the Spectre and the Muton by the building also get moving, and well, it looks like Julian is not done firing reaction shots just yet.
No place for you to go now.
Alright, so before we talk about the enemies, let's take a quick look at the top right corner, where you can see that a 7-turn timer has just appeared, and that is the amount of time we have left to recover those personnel files. Considering the size of the map, however, I think that should be doable, especially since we are already in the process of eliminating the first 6 of 11 enemies. 2 have already gone down and 1 more is easily dispatched off, albeit only temporarily, as we now send Zucchini's Gremlin over to the heavy mech to use Haywire Protocol. And with an 87% success chance, we'll go for the shutdown, this time keeping in mind that the 2 turns this gives us are this one and the next one, but it does take the mech out of the fight, at least for now. Moving on then, let's do some damage against the Spectre, and a 94%er from Grenadier QT should hopefully find its target. Well, it does not, but on the bright side, at least it applies holo targeting still, which means that Julian now has a 99%er, and even though you never really know what you get with him, I am cautiously optimistic that he can land this one.
Just off the target.
Well, off to a great start, aren't we? Only 4 points of damage after the Spectre dodges. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we left it alive, but still I'd rather not. So let's hope that Sapphire West at least can make her lightning hands shot count. So, that's the sectoid down, no action used yet, and that means our next target is now the Muton, not the Spectre, because if we get the kill here, that will trigger death from above.
X-ray neutralized.
And indeed, here we are, death from above has triggered, which means Alyssa can now fire her Dark Lance a second time. Alright, I had not expected a critical hit from this, but it looks like the 10% crit chance did come through. So Ranger Warhawk, who I had thought would be required to deal some good damage here, now has an easy task. All he needs to do is pull the trigger, the stock damage will do the rest, and even if the Spectre dodges, that will still be enough to take it out.
One down, thousands to go.
Lovely, so that leaves only the mech, but that shouldn't be too difficult on the next turn. And with that, half of the enemy force has already been defeated. Let's wait and see if the rest now makes a move. Well, that does not seem to be the case. As you can see here, all enemies inside of the building have remained where they are. And so let us now take out the mech, and this time Grenadier QT is not going to miss. For some robot-on-robot violence, meanwhile, the kill goes to Julian. That is, if he can hit for max damage. And that he can, and with that we are 6 enemies down, 5 more to go. That of course does not include the turrets, but those should not be too difficult to deal with, so let's do so right away with number 1. The shot from Sapphire West here deals enough damage so that Zucchini can now land the killing blow with combat protocol, all from a safe distance where the other turret can't do anything about it. Curiously then, we can take another shot with Sapphire West, because on the last one the Dark Lance's hair trigger, well, triggered, so that was a free action. This one here though is not.
Target neutralized.
And Alyssa making a strong case for mission MVP here early on, getting the critical and with that the instant kill. I had not expected that, but it sure makes the job a little easier.
My watch begins.
Another enemy turn then ends, with the 3 soldiers protecting our objective, not moving an inch. And even though we still have 5 turns left on the timer, there is no need to sit by and do nothing. So let's use one of Celica's 2 claymores now. Even though we don't have line of sight on enemy number 3 at the moment, this should get all of them.
Now we wait.
Unfortunately then, we discover that even though she can throw a claymore to that point, she can't actually shoot it. So we can't do much else here but move to get a slightly better picture of the situation. This at least confirms that all 3 enemies are within the Claymore's blast radius, and we are in luck as Julian can get himself into a position where he can shoot the Claymore without actually revealing himself.
We're near the objective.
Menace 1-5, this is Avenger. We have confirmation of the target package. Move to acquire. Of all the aliens running around out there these days, she just had to modify a Berserker, didn't she?
Her curiosity was not unfounded, although I agree it was perhaps not the most prudent choice.
At least I hit my targets.
Yep, safe to say this did not go the way I had expected.
Got a chance to take this thing down once and for all, Commander. Let's get it done.
So, in a neat sequence of events, we just cleared a rather unfortunate line of sight, got our Reapers spotted, and then discovered this monstrosity right here. Another one of those alien rulers, this one called the Berserker Queen. 100 hit points, 4 points of armor, and accompanied by a full health Muton. Not to mention that all 3 Advent units are also still alive. Looks like we are once again called upon to deliver one hell of a turn. The Berserker Queen, by the way, just like regular Berserkers, is a melee enemy, and just like the Viper King, she gets ruler actions every time we perform an action of our own. Or at least she does if she can see the target, which in Zucchini's case here she can thankfully not, so we can now safely use his second charge of combat protocol to take out the trooper, even though I had of course hoped to be able to skulljack them, but I think our mission priorities have just shifted a bit. Moving on then, we will once again trigger Alyssa's death from above with a guaranteed kill against the Lancer here. and after getting in a free reload, she can now take out the officer with shot number 2. And not only does the officer drop some loot, but Alyssa's hair trigger also goes off again. So after relocating QT and Warhawk, we can now lay down a kill zone, although this will only be useful against the Muton. For the Berserker Queen we have something different planned, but if we could kill that Muton with overwatches, that would make things a whole lot easier.
Area on lockdown.
And so, with Warhawk now also on Overwatch, we will launch a Frost Bomb with QT. This will now completely shut down the Berserker Queen's turn, and thus keep us safe for one more round. As I had hoped, the Muton then moves, which prompts Warhawk to take a reaction shot.
Not even close.
After his miss, however, the Muton then takes aim itself, thankfully though only at Julian. And with a fitting voice line, we see Julian take just 1 meager point of damage, which brings us now to the task at hand, taking out 2 enemies in one turn, one of which sporting a comfortable 100 hit points. So, first things first, I think it's a good idea to get Celica cloaked again.
I stalk my prey.
Just so that if we get any ruler reactions, she does not get targeted. Up next then, we will use the first of the Berserker Queen's 2 frozen turns to move in with QT, and we will use the second frozen turn to lay down Chain Shot, 2 guaranteed hits that will deal at least 18 points of damage and also get rid of the Berserker Queen's 4 points of armor. So that's only 82 hit points remaining, and holder targeting has been applied too. However, the Berserker Queen has now thawed, so for every action we take within her line of sight we get the appropriate ruler reaction. That is, unless our next action can somehow disable her yet again, and well, the Ionic Axe that Warhawk is carrying does have a 25% stun chance, a chance that we will actually trigger twice because of Bladestorm. Alright, double melee hits and the first one is already good enough for the stun. And just like that, we are down to 68 hit points and have just bought ourselves another free action. A reaction in this case probably would have gone against Warhawk, the rest of the squad is still decently far away, and Warhawk would have been able to tank the hit. Now at this point we are using our free action to move in with Specialist Zucchini, because against alien rulers the Boltcaster actually has a 50% stun chance too, and even if it doesn't stun, then the attack should at least get the Queen down to about half health. Right, no stun applied, but I think we have dealt enough damage now, so that this next ruler reaction does not need to worry us in the slightest.
Is some sort of psionic rift. I cannot begin to fathom why Dr. Vahlen would have allowed it to have this ability.
It's trying to make a break for it. Take it out before it gets away.
Right, so we did not get to see this with the Viper King, but if an alien ruler takes enough damage, or enough time passes, then eventually they will summon this psionic portal, and afterwards they will use all subsequent ruler reactions to get to it to escape. Now we'll try our best to not let that happen, and for that we once again bring things back to Ranger Warhawk, who now gets an extra action off of teamwork, which thankfully does not trigger a ruler reaction itself. And the same is true, by the way, for the axe throw, as that is a free action, so let's see what it does. Right, so once again the Ionic Axe's stun chance applied, and once again we got lucky on the dice roll, which means at this point we have another free action to give. Let's use it to launch a bombard with Julian, which we can unfortunately not aim at both Berserker Queen and Muton, but that's quite alright, we have another plan in store for the Muton. The important thing is that we deal a bit more damage against the Queen. Right, down to 42 hit points. Unfortunately, we did also kill a civilian in the process, but this is not a retaliation mission and sometimes sacrifices have to be made.
Ready for more?
Now, at this point, we can activate Serial, a bonus ability that Warhawk picked up some time ago, and we can use it to shoot not the Queen, but the Muton.
One down, thousands to go.
The kill was virtually guaranteed, and so we get to act again now. The shot also did not consume an action point, so the Queen is still stunned. Still, we will now attempt to put the Serpent Armor's Frostbite on her, because doing so would unlock another achievement.
Reach the target.
Sadly though, that's a miss, which actually makes unlocking that achievement quite interesting now. Still, let's focus on the here and now, and in the here and now, the Berserker Queen still has a few too many hit points, so since Frostbite was a free action, we can still slash her, and who knows, maybe we even get another stun out of it. We do not, but it's a critical, bringing the Queen down to 31 hit points, and that means I'm afraid I have bad news for her. Because even if the repeater's 20% instant kill chance does not trigger on any of Celica's 7 shots here, then she will still need to hit only 6 out of 7 shots, provided one of those does 6 points of damage, and with a 96% hit chance, the odds are she'll hit them all.
Leave this place.
We're not picking up further contacts near your position. Site is secure. Move on the target before the charges detonate. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. I'd love to ask Valen what exactly she planned on doing with this thing.
I would be curious to hear her reasoning, although I would question whether reason was ever involved in this decision.
And there we go. Once again, the Reapers banish the method of choice to deal with alien rulers. And with that, we have now defeated our second one without it taking as much as a single offensive action against us.
On Overwatch.
Menace 1-5, we're not picking up further contacts near your position. Site is secure. Move on the target before the charges detonate. Menace 1-5, the clock is ticking. That detonator isn't going to wait. Get to the vault and disarm it before we run out of time.
And indeed, Bradford reminds us that with the area now clear of enemies, we still have another objective to complete.
No hay problema.
So let's use Zucchini here to first pick up the loot, a superior repeater and an advanced scope.
Objeto a salvo.
And then we can use his gremlin to hack the objective chest from afar. With the highest hacking stat in the squad, we definitely want to use him for this. And as a result, we get a guaranteed contact cost reduction for a nearby region, a reward that we will of course gladly take with us.
Estamos dentro. Paquete obtenido.
Status confirmed. All hostiles are down and the area is secure. Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
Right, so here we are. Excellent mission rating, and if it weren't for that 1 point of damage on Julian, it would have been flawless. Either way, a lovely mission, and we have taken out another alien ruler. Interestingly enough, by the way, except for Zucchini and Celica, this was the exact same squad that also took out the Viper King, but of course this was not something I had planned for. Either way, it is still a neat coincidence.
Advent officials revealed today's maneuver by local peacekeepers was a planned exercise. Citizens should not be alarmed. All weapon fire and wounds were simulated to better train Advent forces.
Nothing boosts morale like a few dead aliens. We got more than our share today.
Indeed we did, and Sapphire West and Warhawk are now also able to level up their bond again. That is, once our training center relocation is done.
Having recovered another of Dr. Valen's modified alien test subjects, we should begin an autopsy as soon as possible. By following her own research notes, it is my hope that we will uncover the true purpose of her work.
And yes, just like we did with the Viper King, we of course extract the Berserker Queen corpse too, and it is already hinted at here that the autopsy will unlock another unique suit of armor. I guess we'll find out for ourselves soon enough.
Excellent work, Commander. Your efforts continue to bolster the resistance movement across the globe.
And perhaps even a bit lost in all the excitement around killing the Berserker Queen, we have of course now also just countered the High Alert Dark event, and thus we will not lose concealment for an entire month, which would have been absolutely devastating. And so here we are now. I assume the next set of Guerilla Ops is just around the corner. After all, we haven't had one this month. But for today, I think we have reached a good point to make the cut. So as always, if you enjoyed the episode, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up, and if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.